Now on CoastTV News.
Meal Mission, a food drive in Milford, rallies the community to help those in need as federal cuts threaten the food bank's supply. Dry times, Maryland is under a drought warning. Why conserving water now could make all the difference. And talk, new trade rules slam the stock market as local businesses brace for impact.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
The Food Bank of Delaware looking for donations today, trying to minimize the effects of federal cuts. Good evening. I'm Christina DeRobertis. Welcome to CoastTV News at 11. We begin tonight with a load of donations. Cars lined up outside the Milford Food Bank this evening, and as CoastTV reporter Brendan Conroy shows us, lawmakers organized this food drive following federal cuts to nonprofit food deliveries.
Food supplies, and even more food. That's what was dropped off at the Food Bank of Delaware in Milford this evening. Food Bank of Delaware President Kathy Konefsky tells CoastTV anything helps as the future of donations remains uncertain.
We know that when people are hungry, they cannot think, they cannot learn. They think about a child that we're expecting to go to school and learn.
And it may take some time, but Konefsky is confident with the help of the community, the food bank will find its way back on track.
We are a beautiful state that takes care of each other, and I have no doubt that that's what's going to happen, but we need everyone.
Helen Salita was one of the first cars in line to drop off donations.
The need is so great right now, which is why it has been devastating to see these cuts. So I think it is time for people to pull together to help their neighbor, what we can do here locally, as well as making sure that we are also getting those who have more ability to be fighting for folks as well.
Delaware Governor Matt Meyer was there too.
I'm a former school teacher. It's kind of amazing that kids these days sometimes is the only place that they can get a nutritious meal. It can't be the only place they get a nutritious meal. We have to make sure a community center, boys and girls clubs, after school programs, and families can have food at home.
Let me show you how the process works. So the food's right there. A volunteer will walk over to this side where a car will be parked. They'll grab the food from the car, bring it back over to the bin before going inside. And President Konefsky says while there is nothing scheduled right now, they are planning on doing many more events in the future. Reporting in Milford, Brendan Conroy, CoastTV News.
All right, thanks to Brendan for that story. New tonight, most of Maryland is under a drought warning. State officials say it's not a critical situation yet, but that's what they're trying to avoid. The Maryland Department of the Environment says below average precipitation for the past year has led to this situation. But there is good news for the Eastern Shore. Here on Delmarva, we're not as bad as the rest of Maryland. Central and western parts of the state have it the worst. And officials say there are little things that all of us can be doing.
We can fix leaks. We can make sure that when we're brushing our teeth, we're turning off the water. That conserves water. If we're outside washing our car, we can make sure that we have a nozzle on our hose that turns on and off so that when we go to rinse the car, we turn the nozzle on. When we're washing it, we turn the nozzle off.
And Lee Curry also says taking these kind of steps right now can help the Eastern Shore avoid a much more serious situation when we're in the heat of the summer. And with this in mind, let's take a live look outside into Ocean City and turn things over to our First Alert Chief Meteorologist, Paul Williams. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Christina. And in light of our concern about having drought situation and a shortage of water, let's take a look at the latest update with our drought monitor from the National Weather Service. We are still in the midst of abnormally dry conditions for us in Rehoboth, Ocean View, Seaford, as well as just all of Sussex. But once again, this is better than what we have been because we're at the bottom end of this scale, so to speak. We're really up here more towards the top. Now, as far as where we stand right now, we are in the 70s as of right now, but we're at 61 in Rehoboth Beach, 65 Bethany Beach. And we were concerned about the possibility of some scattered showers moving in, but thanks to the cloudy skies we had early, really put a kibosh on that for us, but we're still a little bit breezy on the beaches. Coming up, we'll talk more about what's happening with those devastating storms in the center part of the country that we initially thought we'd have to deal with, as well as our own situation.
All right, thank you, Paul. Well, a Mariner Middle School teacher filed a civil rights complaint alleging discrimination against English language learners and their parents. The teacher says when she started nearly 3 years ago, she noticed the school was not meeting civil rights standards. And she says students sometimes receive ESL instruction during a 30-minute advisory period, but she says that's not equitable because there's no designated classroom or curriculum.
My primary concern was that for the newcomers, the recent immigrants, they didn't have a specific English class where they learn English language development. And that is part of Lau versus Nichols. That was a Supreme Court decision a little over 50 years ago.
And in a statement made to CoastTV News, Superintendent Bob Fulton said in part, quote, the district denies all allegations of discrimination against students based upon national origin and welcomes the OCR investigation into the complaint, unquote. And we do have this full story on CoastTV.com. If you're looking for some more information, you can check out the article. Now to Fenwick Island. Fenwick Island will begin charging for parking on May 15th for the summer season. But instead of a price hike, a proposal has been made to decrease their seasonal pass prices for certain businesses to help employees park closer to where they work. If approved, employees would only be allowed to use those spots between the hours of 4 p.m. and 10 p.m., allowing vacationers to use them during the day to go to the beach. It's something one local thinks is a great idea.
I think that would be beneficial to both parties. I don't see it being a problem for the evening rush hour.
And the council will discuss these proposed changes this Friday. Now to Rehoboth Beach, the Sea Witch Festival. It happens every year, drawing thousands of people to the coast. But some festival goers are parking overnight to reserve their spots, causing concerns for Rehoboth Beach commissioners. On your screen now is footage from last year's Sea Witch Festival. And CoastTV spoke with a frequent Rehoboth visitor who says parking overnight is just not fair.
It's hard enough to find parking spaces here on a regular day, or even sometimes look around during the week.
So now commissioners will meet on Monday to discuss possible ways to fix this problem of overnight parking before the Sea Witch Festival returns. If they do want a decision to apply before this year's festival, they'll have to make that decision before October 24th. That's day one of the Sea Witch Festival. Now to a story making international headlines. President Donald Trump has imposed history-making new tariffs, which includes a 20% tariff on goods from the European Union and an additional 34% tariff on Chinese imports. For Christopher Desch and Eric Furr at 302 The Local, roughly 70% of their liquor comes from other countries, and they say they may have to pivot.
So whether it's switching out one varietal for another to keep the costs low, we'll certainly do that. And if we have to take items off the menu as a result of tariffs, we'll do that as well.
This does bring us to our CoastTV poll tonight. We want to know, who will tariffs on alcohol hurt the most? Let's take a look at the results tonight, see what you guys are thinking. 75% saying U.S. consumers will be affected most by these alcohol tariffs. A few saying European brands, bar owners, or everyone equally. We want to know what you think. You can still vote if you go over to CoastTV.com or use our mobile app. And sticking with this, worldwide reactions to President Trump's increased taxes on imported goods have been strong and swift today, with stock prices dropping and affected countries promising retaliation. As NBC's Julie Sirkin reports, it's not just Democrats criticizing the tariffs here at home.
Fallout today after President Trump announced sweeping tariffs that will affect everything from the cost of cars, alcohol, even toys.
The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom.
Fears of an escalating trade war sending the stock market plummeting.
Markets in sell-off mode big time.
Taxes hitting almost every country.
The average tariff is going to be about 25% and could cost the average family as much as $5,000 a year.
A 10% minimum on all trading partners. What the White House calls a reciprocal tariff on dozens of countries they say are ripping off the U.S. China facing an additional 34% increase on top of a 20% tariff already in effect. and goods from the European Union a 20% import tax. Adversaries and allies treated the same.
I'm announcing that the Government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach.
And already Americans are feeling the squeeze. Stellantis automaker pausing operations at a Canadian plant and temporarily laying off 900 American workers. Trump's team out in full force defending the tariffs.
We've got to take this country in a different direction.
But for now, that direction could lead small businesses down a rough path.
It could be as much as $50,000 more for us to import our goods.
Adam Fazakerly and his wife own Lay & Go. Their big seller is the cosmetic bag that they manufacture in Cambodia, which was just hit with an additional 49% tariff. He says they tried to manufacture their product in the U.S. and couldn't.
We looked to 13 different manufacturers in our country, and the thing that they kept saying is, you're just going to move it to China because that's where it belongs.
And as the reality of his tariffs sets in, President Trump is heading to his Florida golf resort. It's still not known if Liberation Day could turn into a liability.
Moving on now, Signalgate is about to enter a new chapter. The Defense Department announced it will review Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's use of Signal while discussing last month's military strikes in Yemen. Acting Inspector General Stephen Stebbins wrote a letter to Hegseth saying the goal of the investigation will be to determine if Hegseth and others complied with protocol while using the commercial messaging app. This probe will also look into whether Hegseth was in line with classification requirements. Top officials have previously said the information shared in those messages was not classified. And we are just getting started this evening. Coming up next, another jump at the pump. Gas prices rise 10 cents in just 1 week. More on what's driving the increase. But first, work in recovery, how one group has provided support to those struggling with addiction. That's up next.
Take a look at our Bay forecast. Listen, we're starting to see a couple of sprinkles make its way across the towards the Bay forecast and Bay area, but just light precipitation at this point. Nothing severe thanks to the cloudy skies we had earlier. We'll have more on your full forecast coming up in 60 seconds.
Imagine being at the lowest point in your life and having nowhere to go. In this week's Coastal Connections, Brendan Conroy shows us how one man has made it his mission to be the light in people's darkest moments.
Brianna Watkins is vacuuming. This house means a lot to her. It's a recovery home.
I had an addiction to crack cocaine for the longest time.
Brianna is one of the people helped by Christian Grace LLC. The Georgetown organization offers sober living and affordable supportive housing.
I called my mom and I said, look, I can't do this anymore. Like, I have nothing. I have no clothes. I have no vehicle. I have nothing. I don't even have a phone. Like, I was using somebody else's phone.
David Foreman, president of Christian Grace, says he was once an addict himself. He now dedicates his life to making sure others are provided the same help as he once had, including offering work when they need it.
We're giving people a great price because we don't have the crazy overhead. I'm keeping my people working a little bit, and so they're getting paid a fair wage, and whatever's left over defrays the costs of the extra energy and other things that are going on here.
Christian Grace has 4 homes, all in the Georgetown area. One even has a Zen garden. One special thing David told me about helping people in recovery is that whether it's on the job or in their personal lives, it can have a generational effect. They might struggle with addiction through generations, but helping them can help future generations. The future generation is top of mind for Eric Doring, who says he's staying sober for his daughter, Riley.
I love her more than anything in this world. Every day is a struggle for me. I fight demons every single day. It's part of life, man. But having people like David to give me the opportunity to have a chance back at life, I don't know where I would be without being in recovery or a sober living house, because I can't do it on my own.
Helping people recover through work and their personal life. One step at a time.
There's a lot of reward in that.
For this week's Coastal Connections in Sussex County, Brendan Conroy, CoastTV News.
Well, fortunately, the cloudy skies worked in our favor from earlier today, and we talked about this previously throughout our 5 and 6 o'clock newscasts. The cloudier it was going to be, less likely we'd have things really fire off and get really active for tonight. Now, we are tracking some scattered showers moving towards us, but they're nowhere near the intensity of a thunderstorm. Definitely nothing near severe. So, our Irish Eyes camera in Lewis, we are quite warm enough to support a storm or two, and we are expecting those scattered showers, relatively light to moderate showers, to make its move throughout the late night, early morning hours. Temperatures are in the 70s throughout the inland area, 75 in Milton as well as Georgetown, but we're in the 60s along the coast, 64 at Rehoboth, 66 Bethany Beach. So when you take a look at the winds, they're pushing primarily out of the southwest right now, relatively light up to 3 to 9 miles per hour. But we are dry and could actually use a little bit of that rain. We're abnormally dry, but that's better. That's a step in the right direction away from moderate and severe drought, which is where we've been living for quite some time. Our chances of rain, they're elevated a little bit for tonight going into tomorrow, but really more significant Sunday going into Monday. And that's where I'm kind of focusing more so on the chance of anything more adverse happening as it pertains to precipitation. Small craft advisory active for Dewey Beach, Bottom Hills, Ocean City, Bayview Park, watching out for 25-mile-per-hour winds, but that also includes Ocean City down to Chincoteague, so a bit blustery along the beaches. We're just starting to see a few light scattered showers make its way across the bay, but they're much ado about nothing at this point because the real mess is right here in the central part of the country where this frontal boundary is finally starting to move now, but it had been stretching in the same place for a couple of days, so it dropped. All this dark red you see here throughout Arkansas and all that, that's because they are flooded from the storms that have been on top of them so significantly. So we're looking for a mild night tonight, looking for some pesky stalled front kicks in for Friday, and then the weekend features more clouds than sunshine. So our risk of precipitation has diminished to zilch nothing, non-severe, totally. So that's where we are right now. Even though our forecasting models are indicating we could get a few cells in throughout the overnight period, but really we don't see things become active until we get to Friday. Now the the winds are going to be shifting direction as we go into Friday, coming off the water, bringing in some additional moisture, and that's going to help to create an opportunity for a little bit of fog and some thick cloud cover. But overall, we're looking for temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s. We're looking for 68 for the high in Cambridge. And we're looking for 72, for example, in Snow Hill and Pocomoke City. Over the next 5 days, we'll peak at 72 on Sunday, but then we're going to drop crazy on Monday and Tuesday, thanks to a cold front pushing through with some rain, a rain-cooled atmosphere. That's going to help, but then we're going to have cold air that's going to kick in. And take a look at this roller coaster ride we're going to be on, because we're going to peak at about 81 degrees for a Sunday, and then we're going to drop to well below freezing by the time we get to Wednesday, 29 degrees by then. All right, so 65 for tonight, 69 for tomorrow, and 68 for Saturday. Finally, here's a look at your 7-day forecast. We are calling for big time cold, particularly Tuesday going into Wednesday, as we watch out for those storms to really stay away from us and that cold front to have its effect. Now, multiple people were killed by tornadoes from that system that I just showed you a few moments ago, thanks to tornadoes and severe storms that broke out in the central part of the U.S. for Wednesday evening and tracked east overnight. Storms have continued to crop up in Texas, Ohio Valley region, and for Arkansas from this previous afternoon, as well as Missouri. Tennessee particularly hit hard, and with Michael Yoshida on the scene at Lake City, Arkansas, he gives us the latest on the devastation from all of those storms.
When dealing with fast-moving storms,
it's moving quick.
you too have to move quickly in case of a tornado. That was the case for this resident in Selmer, Tennessee, who says he survived by jumping in his bathtub.
It probably only took 5 seconds from that point before I could just hear my house ripping apart.
The National Weather Service issued nearly 300 tornado warnings across 15 states since Wednesday morning. More than 5 million people in Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Arkansas were under a tornado watch Thursday evening. Dozens of tornadoes that managed to touch down destroyed property and left towns virtually unrecognizable.
Tornado came through and just plowed about everything in its path.
That's my home, so that was very devastating, and to see the roof off.
We was hoping it missed our house, but as soon as we drove up, we realized we have nothing left.
Torrential rain is triggering flash flood warnings that are projected for days. When the waters recede, communities are already gearing up to pick up the pieces that the storm has left behind.
We will do everything in our power to rebuild and recover as quickly as possible.
In Lake City, Arkansas, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Well, Well, it looks like gas prices rose again this past week, and it was a bigger jump than the previous week. AAA says gasoline jumped by more than 10 cents to $3.26 a gallon this past week. It says refinery maintenance and the switch to a summer blend are among the factors driving the increase. The last time the national average for a gallon of regular was $3.26. That was back in September. AAA says that's consistent with seasonal shifts, and it says current prices remain below the levels seen this time last year. Coming up in sports tonight, a Henlopen Conference clash as Laurel girls soccer meets up with Del Mar on the field.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
CVS Pharmacy is fighting back against the Department of Justice's opioid lawsuit. Attorneys for the largest pharmacy chain in the U.S. are requesting to have a majority of claims dismissed by a federal judge. Officials have accused CVS of violating the Controlled Substances Act by purposely filling invalid prescriptions. In a 45-page motion filed Tuesday, CVS lawyers say prosecutors never provided key facts, including the identities of who the doctors who prescribed medication. Prosecutors have until June 4th to file a response to that motion. Well, an estimated 2 million people in the U.S. will be diagnosed with cancer this year alone, according to the American Cancer Society. But new research released today suggests 4 things can lower the risk of dying from the disease. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to the study's senior author about how to improve cancer survival odds.
It's a devastating diagnosis. Cancer can make a patient feel like so much is out of their control. But a new study suggests there are things that can be done to lower risk of dying from an obesity-related cancer diagnosis.
I think that that's a great message of not being able to feel hopeless that, well, I've had my treatment now. It's out of my hands.
American Cancer Society scientist Alpa Patel is senior author of a new study that shows 4 factors that can improve the odds of survival after an obesity-related cancer diagnosis. Avoiding obesity, staying physically active, eating a healthy diet, and limiting alcohol intake. Patel says survivors of non-smoking obesity-related cancers studied in the U.S. who mostly adhered to these healthy lifestyle choices after their diagnosis had a 24% overall lower risk of dying compared to those who didn't make as many healthy choices.
Even if you are not perfectly following these guidelines, the more you adhere to them, the better your odds of surviving your cancer diagnosis are.
Patel says that even if a person with cancer wasn't making healthy lifestyle choices before they found out they have the disease, choosing to be healthier post-diagnosis can help them.
It's a great opportunity for clinicians to reinforce to their patients, as well as for patients themselves to know that it's not too late to start after that diagnosis.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
Good evening, sports fans. Del Mar girls soccer looking to improve to 3-1 on the season while facing Henlopen Conference foe Laurel. Early into the first half, Del Mar gets a good look, but Mackenzie Carroll's shot is saved by Bulldogs goalie Savannah Harrington. The ball is sent deep next, and it is Abigail Neal who wins the foot race and then scores in between the goalie's legs to crack the score open for Del Mar 1-0 in the 15th minute of play. The Wildcats strike again, and it's Neal who again shows off the savvy dribbling, going far post for the goal. 2-0 Del Mar in the 31st minute of play. Del Mar gaining confidence. Rylan Nichols uses the right foot to hit this hard shot out of the goalie's reach to make it 3-0 Del Mar with the lead in the 33rd minute. Now Del Mar awarded a penalty kick, and Carroll takes advantage of her chance at goal, putting it to a 4-0 Del Mar and lead at half, and the Wildcats go on to win 8-0 over Laurel. To the MLB, the Phillies escape out of a bases-loaded jam in the 9th to sweep the Rockies 3-1. Bryce Harper got the scoring started with an RBI double, while Kyle Schwarber launched his 3rd homer of the season. The Phillies moved to 5-1 on the year, and now will host the Dodgers tomorrow night. That'll do it for sports. Have a great night.
Coming up next, The Boss is back. How many new songs you can expect from Springsteen this summer. In entertainment news tonight, Bruce Springsteen is set to release over 80 new songs this summer. The tracks to the Lost Albums collection. It includes 7 full-length albums with songs that have never been heard by the general public. However, Springsteen says close friends have heard the songs over the years. He says the songs were written over the course of his decades-long career and were finished during the pandemic. The collection drops on June 27th. And hey, don't forget, each and every Friday you can cheer up with a weekly dose of local good news from Coast TV. We have features, cool things to do, and more, and you can sign up for free. Just go to coasttv.com/sign-up.
Here's a look at your Bay Health camera in Milford. We're looking at 73 degrees at this present time. We'll drop down to 70 degrees even by 3 o'clock. A couple of light showers begin to making its move over towards the peninsula, but we're going to basically deal with breezy conditions with our small craft advisory. Steve Apolito of Lewis, congratulations. You're our new winner of our umbrella from Paul Davis Restoration Home Remodeling. Steve, you got to come by the station, pick it up though, okay? All right, now, call and get your forecast by calling our weather line, 443-880-9100. Your forecast is just a call away, sponsored by the law offices of Brugstead, Mendelis, and Federico. Finally, here's a look at your 10-day forecast. Now this is all over the place, okay? Rain on Friday, cloudy on Saturday, 72 on Sunday, dropping to 50 on Monday and rain. Then we go to 50 on Tuesday. We drop to below freezing going into Wednesday, and then we'll climb back into the 60s. Happy Passover and Palm Sunday coming up too.
A lot of range next week. Okay, thanks, Paul, and thanks for joining us for Coast TV News at 11. For some more local news and local weather, you can always download our Coast TV News app. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon is up next, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for Coast TV News at 5 a.m. Have a great night.